Hello everybody, this is Make It Better, and today we're doing what Deku had Nightmares Part 27. I did do a part earlier, but didn't like it, scrap it. Other things will be happening. I, I'm starting to forget what exactly the anime is saying, so I had to rewatch it again from start to ending, up to four seasons, not the fifth. So it would take me a while since I had to work and all that stuff. With that said, I hope you like this. Before I start, it's a 18 plus. Do not watch if you're 17 or younger. Whatever you watch from here on out, I have warned you. This is 18 plus. Nothing of the sort. To my knowledge, it's gonna be really bad, and I don't want you guys to sue me for something I told you guys not to watch. My videos are not meant for kids. That's why it's always not in the kids friendly uh, part of trending, and they will never be in trending. I don't think so anyway. So with all of that said, if you're 18 or older, you're allowed to watch. 17 or younger, you're not allowed to watch. With that said, let's get into it. Last time I left off was where everybody was basically just forced into training when Aizawa told them their quirks wasn't that strong to what they have thought originally. Damn. So everybody's training like always, but for Zuko, he's training with the Musker cat. I forgot her name, his or her name, for the first half, and then they were taken to eat dinner, but learned that they had to cook for it. Zuko, Araka, and a few of the others start cooking. Zuko sees that they're not putting any spices or any ingredients that's really important, so after everybody was finished and just waiting for it to heat up and actually be cooked, Zuko did, and everybody's noticed this, that Zuko just came by and put like a splash of salt, a bit of peppers, and then other ingredients that he would know that will taste better. But he left one that looks way too spicy for him to even fix. After everybody got a piece, they asked what Zuko did to the food, and Zuko just said he put some special spices to make it taste better. As he eats, and it's almost there. As everybody eats and appreciates the taste, it's coming from the curry. Then people comments about the vegetables are diced a little too big, the meat was a little diced way too small, and everything all mix and max, all that other stuff. But they just kept going. Afterwards, Uraka asked him about his training, and Zuko explained that the first half is basically for my physical training. Now the next one's for my mental training. As Uraka wanted to ask more, but she was interrupted and was asked about her training and how she's doing, and everybody else explains theirs. Moving on to an hour, Zuko's in a forest, basically in a small area that's no one nearby, and he thinks about how he would do it. And they didn't have any idea how to train it himself, so they had to ask All Might, Itami, and other people how to train his quirk. And they just say let him train it himself. Even All Might said that. So Zuko chose to do this. He put a vial that's only able to hold one single tear. and mark it as 1, and the next one will be 2, the next will be 3, and so on, all the way to 9. And these are how many years? 1 year of his pain into 1 teardrop. And then he thinks of the next for 2 years. The 2 years, and so on, all the way to 9. But he decided to make a 10th one of all of his pain now, of his physical and training of that sort. And he just left it there. It took him quite a bit to remember exactly where it stopped for his next birthday. And that he knows when his next birthday came up. After he done his last 10th one, he sat down and, well, took a breather. I say there were obvious marks, but for Zuko he didn't really care because he was just gonna take them in anyway. So he just take one at a random for his kind of training of mental force. He took a 5, he took a 7, he took 8, he took 4, then 2, then 1, then he took 3, and then at that point he forgot what else he took. As he looks back onto his table and see if there's any more, he doesn't see. He saw 1 left and he choked that one down. 6. After that, he just sit there and just remember everything. It just comes back and forth in flashes. He just holds his head kind of tired and doesn't want to do anything. But after his trance and after everything, he remembers all the good times with Itami, his father, with All Might, Gran Torino, and Araka. That's what brought him back. After that moment, he felt a tear finally falling off his face. He touched it, looked onto his fingers, and they were actually tears. Not the nightmare tears that he's so used to seeing. He wiped them away and decided to go and train with his physical quirk. A bunch of push-ups and all of that. Another scene goes. And someone is running through the forest, holding a vial in their hands tightly, but making sure it doesn't break. As they are running all the way towards the area that the girls are, well, sleeping in. Everybody at this point has finally taken a break from their training and just sat there and relaxed. Talking about all normal stuff for a moment until Invisible Girl came breaking through the walls, but really through the door in a huge rush, and she says, I got it. Now he will finally pay. As she says this out loud to the girls. The girls ask what's going on, and Invisible Girl said, This will make sure he does not peep on us again. And they ask, what's going on? And Invisible said, she showed them the vial. The 9th vial. And she explained that she saw that Zuko was taking these and decided to take one for Manila. It would be perfect for him to for him to finally realize he's doing something extremely illegal, basically for him to stop it forever. And she doesn't care for whatever happens. But Oraka and Suyu and Juro actually ask her to stop and put that thing down slowly. As Juro and Suyu know heard of his quirk, has some details, but Araka knows exactly how dangerous that can be. Oof, I have 10 minutes. Yeah, this is my lunchtime, so I'm trying my best to keep it there. Usually I just fall asleep on lunchtime, but guess not. Here we go. As Suyu had told Invisible Girl that she is holding a bomb, an actual bomb, and you must set it down or take it back to Zuko, as well as Jiro. But the girls are like arguing that no, let's just use it on Moneta, and he will never bother us again. Which some of the girls are starting to lean over to that side. But Araka chimes in and say, "Can you just give it to me before anything happens, and we will decide it after um, Zuko comes back from his training. It's very rude of you to take something of his." As she tried to walk slowly with her hands out, trying to grab it. As Invisible Girl pull it away, she points to our area and see that menace is now staring at us. As all the girls looks over and see Moneta with a camera. He got spotted and start running. And the girls start attacking him with whatever quirks they had. Somehow closely hitting him, but barely missing. Barely connecting. And Moneta is just moving out of the way for all of this happening. And it's so far away in the forest that nothing is really happening. And everybody else is basically still training since they are all tryhards. And Yuzuku is finally getting back into the main sleeping areas. It kept going on for a few minutes, almost a full hour, until Invisible Girl tried to throw it to Mineta, thinking she got it, but at the moment she was about to throw, someone else grabbed onto the vial and started trying to throw it themselves. And it kept going on and on, all the way to where it's Momo. She finally grabbed onto it and finally had some kind of like a gun of sorts, a slingshot, to shoot it at Moneta. And right when she wind back and started to shoot, she was bumped into one of the girls and let go. And instead of hitting Moneta, it hits Oraka, which Oraka felt a huge pain on her back and, tried to grab it and touched it, but she only touched the glass that basically breaks on impact. And the girls are shocked and Moneta just finally runs away. He tells the story, but first, let's get into hers. She grabs onto whatever glass that was on her back and removed it as the girls were trying to help her. And they thought they was going to leave a stain, but the nightmare seeped onto her skin. And the girls take off her shirt on the back, and it shows no residue, but the black ooze that was just barely showing finally seeped in as it finally seeped through. That little interruption was from my boss. All that other stuff probably gonna happen again. Anyway, as it was going into her skin, into her veins, into her body, finally reaching to her brain, she started to see what Zuko had saw. Next point of view. This is Zuko's point of view of the whole thing, and Oraka's first person point of view. So, this is the 18 plus I was talking about. Right when Zuko finally remembers anything that happened in his first and a half year alive as a child baby, he was in his crib somewhat crying for all night. And then on the outside, on the third person, we can see a woman coming out of nowhere, holding a tea kettle on her hand, and start pouring boiling water onto the baby as the baby was still crying. On to the next scene. Zuko was still held as if the mother cared somewhat, but just keep feeding it barely enough food to survive for the next years. The father came in and threw the mother to the wall, grabbed onto the child, and start shaking it extremely hard to a point where the baby, Izuku, puked everywhere. And that just infuriates the mother and the father to a point where they just threw the baby into a wall, into a small enclosed box, and just closed it, leaving him there for hours or even days. No one knows. After that moment, life became harder. Zuko was never fed anything nutritious nor even helpful, just some crackers and water every day. When people came to their home, the mother and father act as if everything's normal, giving the baby food that babies are known to eat, those mushy stuff. But when Zuko took in a bite of it, it was salt, pepper, and black and red chili peppers. As the baby spit it out, they just explained that he doesn't like carrots that much. So they force fed Zuko that very mush. Later down on the years, Zuko was able to talk, but his first words weren't mommy or daddy. It was more stop. At this moment, he was strapped down onto a table. His limbs, his arms were being pulled slightly, but just enough where he's screaming. And his first words was stop. But they did not do it. Instead, they start tasing the baby every time it started to speak. Even a small vowel or a movement of the mouth made him stop, or he would gotten the tase once again. Another moment. It became known as the turn Zuko 2 years old. Zuko doesn't know what's coming. He was in a room, all black, seemingly black paint on the walls. But if you look closely at them, it was bloodstains from his past experience of his life. And then a man came in that looks nothing like his father nor his mother. Grab onto Zuko and start pulling him apart from limb by limb. Using his quirk itself, forced it where Zuko was still alive, but forcibly pulled apart his body into pieces, and then push it all right back, feeling every single pain. And this went on for hours. Arms, fingers, nails, skin, bone, everything. His eyes pulled out and pushed right back in. After the hours were done, the guy leaves. And the mother came in saying, "How was your gift for your birthday?" And Zuko couldn't help but just smiled blankly and just nod. Next 3. It goes on like this for many hours, many days, many months and years. Zuko was meeting with other people, but these people had quirks unimaginable pain to them, and they use that pain to Zuko. One had a gun quirk, but every time they shoot a gun or shoot a bullet out of their hand, they put the stinging shell onto Zuko's skin. He is feeling the pain, the stinging, and the after effects of the 2 degrees burns over his skin. And it kept going like this. Another person came in, showed him that he has knife for fingers, and started cutting into Zuko's skin piece by piece, enough where a little bit of blood was coming off, but not enough, and did this throughout his whole body. Another had a acid quirk, much worse, where they can't control it and was oozing a green liquid. And right when they pour it onto Zuko's forehead, it burns on a touch of skin, human skin, and started to melt his skin itself throughout his whole face, but somehow still alive, and him screaming in pain for all those hours. Another time, he was asked questions, seemingly from a cop, and this cop started to laugh louder and crazier after a few minutes, to a point where he went insane and just broke his body. Zuko is just watching this policeman, seemingly like a normal man, just went insane just by looking at Zuko, and decided to, kill himself in front of this kid. And more cops came in, and more. All of them are doing the same thing, looking at the child, starting going crazy, and brutally and horrific, basically using anything they had of killing themselves in the fastest way. They did not have guns nor tasers, but they did have a knife, and most of them slit their throats, and they just bled through everything. The others, they banged their head onto the table, onto the wall, even the glass, everywhere, and Zuko's just watching this go on for a while. Up to his 5 years, he's 5 years old. Seeing all of this really broke him, and he started to think about how he's gonna get out of here. He needs to get out. I need to go out. I can't take it anymore. And he's crying. But right when he started crying, the chains around his neck started to get tighter. And the chain that was connected to his neck, to the wall, started to get higher and higher, where Zuko was barely able to touch the ground. He's breathing, but barely. After he finally stopped crying and his tears finally dried up, the chain finally loosened. The parents grab onto Zuko and push him into a cage, a metal bar cage that had rust and paint that was so disgusting just to look at. In a bar cage, he just put him in there, lock him up, and threw the key away. Another year passed, and it kept going like that for on and on. On his 6th birthday, they decided to get a new guy, and this guy had a plague mask of a crow on his face. He touched the child, made him die in front of their eyes. They cheered, and he came back to life. But sadly, his wounds healed as well, so he had nothing to show for it. And they just told him, as Zuko hears this, again, 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 in a very cheerful tone. And Zuko was able just to look in this guy's eyes once again, trying to say, please don't. But the guy did it. Zuko blinked, came back, blinked, and came back. Over and over until the guy got tired of it and just left the area. On everything else. On his 7th birthday, they decide to bring in a very tall blonde man with a missing eye. And he was told that this kid is now his new punching bag until he gets bored. And the guy did not care. He is beating down Zuko every chance he take, every small breath he took. Zuko was beaten down over and over again with this man's quirk, enlarging his muscles to a point where it breaks, and he used the anger, the heat, into his punches to make sure Zuko is not breathing. And then, when Zuko was at the brink of death again, another guy came, healed him with a healing quirk, but stopped it right when he was about to heal all his wounds. Left, and the man started beating him down once again. The 7th birthday. I'm starting to lose track. I'm going to say the 8th birthday. He was taken into a boat, but no shelter, no food, just a wooden boat, and was told to live out there for the rest of his life. And they just have cameras everywhere watching him. And Zuko, not knowing this, decided to try to swim away. When he finally hit land, he was pushed back by a force that was not known to him, that it was somebody's quirk, pushing him back and just pushing him back into the ocean. On and on. Every time he made it to land, he was pushed back and was not able to get back into the land. He gave up and tried to live on the fish. But these fish weren't normal. Right when he picked it up and tried to eat it, he tried to cook it. Nothing to cook or nothing to heat it. He ate it raw. But these fish had spikes all over their skin, all over their scales. And Zuko tried his best, very best, to pull off the scales to eat whatever meat he can find. But every time he bit into the meat, he somehow found even more spikes puncturing his tongue and making him bleed out of whatever he had onto the food. But sadly, he was so hungry and so thirsty, he just forced it all down, pushing all the food into his mouth, all the way down to his stomach, where he can actually feel full. And when he was tired, he drank the salt water of the lake, spitting it all out. But sadly, he ate it all again. This vicious cycle of finding land, somewhat surviving, but really it was living hell for him. After a whole few months passed, he was finally able to get onto land, and he was just eating whatever he could find that was edible. Basically, any grass or sticks that he could put into his mouth and swallow. And then he ate a mushroom, and that made him feel so numb to every pain he could think of. And he was taken. And these people were not his mother or father. They beat him, questioned him, everything they could do to ask him why was he on that very lake, and do you know of any of these experiences? Zuko said nothing. getting used to the pain, did not say anything. After they beat him down, they just threw him out of the woods, have him laying there quietly. And he's just laying there, not knowing what to do, waiting for whatever else to happen. Then a lightning storm came, but it turned into hail. And these hail, they were as big as golf balls. And they were raining, falling down into the ground. Everywhere else was good, but for Zuko, he had to find shelter because it felt so bad that these things were hitting him in every part of his body. He needs to find shelter, and he did. He did. He found shelter into a abandoned building, and he just stayed there for until the rain stopped. But he did not want to leave, nor want to stay. So he just lay down on the floor and fell asleep. Another year passed, and he's been used to living in that very apartment, abandoned home in the forest for who knows how long. And he decided to finally walk out, to find help. But when he did, and when he finally get out, it was in a city known for the outlaws to live. And these men were organized. They see how useful he is and decide to train him to a point of no return, of not saying or telling of what has happened to him. But they learn about his quirk, and they all had evil grins, and decided to train him on his quirk to finally tell the truth on any man he touched. But these men gave him a thing he never thought he would ever have, a truly good gift for all of his hard work. These men devised a room built with the softest material for him to sleep forever, and they just threw him in the room. And Zuko, feeling how soft everything was, and knowing that everything can and will go wrong, decided to lay into the bed, covered in sheets, pillows, stuffing, everything, and close his eyes, fast asleep, waiting for the next thing to happen. After that moment, Oraka finally came out of that trance, fully dazed, believing herself as Zuko, and start looking around, terrified, and her friends were trying to wake her up and shake her awake, but she didn't respond for minutes. Only minutes. Exactly 9 minutes passed. Uraka finally awakened, looked around shakily but in fear in her eyes, and she is pushing them away and trying to say what has happened, where's everybody else, and more and more. After she finally calmed down and realized that she is back in her own body, she's starting to cry, and huge tears were coming out of her eyes, crying to the girls what she saw. She's telling them all what she saw. And when she finally explained just 1 year of Zuko's experience, the girls starting to feel bad and start tearing up. And when Uraka did not stop after 3 years have passed, the girls starting to cry and cry even more. Hearing the story of Zuko's life, every single detail that he's gone through, Uraka had felt. And she's starting to cry and cry. Moving over to Mineta. Mineta is now going over to the guys, and the guys are finally all together after being sweaty and took a bath and everything. As he explained that he was took some videos of some good videos of the girls, they started attacking him. But he explained that something weird, and Zuko was here just overhearing everything. And when Mineta said that they were trying to throw this small black vial thing, luckily it only hit Araka, but I escaped barely. Which the guys scold him for doing such a thing, but Zuko rushed over to Mineta, grabbed onto him tightly, and what Mineta saying, "Whoa, dude, ow, ow, what the heck?" And Zuko asked him, "What? How big was the vial?" And Mineta said, "About like quarter size, maybe bigger." And Zuko said, "Where are the girls now?" And he said, like in their rooms. Why, dude? Why? And Zuko just immediately run towards them. The guys don't understand. So, but the only people saw how scared Zuko was Todoroki and Ida. And they both run after him and try to stop him and ask questions, but Zuko did not stop. He is running towards their room. The girls and the women teachers, Ragdoll and Pixie Bob, finally stopped Zuko to why is he over in the girls' room, and he's not allowed to be over here. As Zuko pushed them away with his quirk and said, "Move! I need to get to her," in a very vicious and angry tone where they are not happy about it. And they call Aizawa and basically another teacher and tell them that that this Zuko kid is going over to the girls' room. And they saw Ida and Todoroki following him. When Zuko finally ripped open the door with his string one for all quirk on and looks everywhere and asking, "Where is she?" As they're all just turned around looking at him, crying in tears in a holo. And they look over and Zuko see just a small clip of her hair and start rushing towards her. He finally grabbed onto Araga, hold her closely, and said, "Shh, shh, shh. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. Everything is okay. Everything is fine." As he's rocking her back and forth to make her go back to sleep. And then the teachers finally came by, seeing the whole mess of all the girls crying. And Zuko's just holding onto Araka as she's crying her eyes out. Forever. For an hour, 2 hours. All the way till she finally falls asleep. And the girls, after their crying fit, they explain what has happened to Araka. They explain that Invisible Girl grabbed a vial from Zuko's training and decided to throw it to Mineta, but Mineta dodged out of the way, but sadly Araka got hit. If they heard that part of the story, Ida told them another part, that Zuko's power he had to feel the pain first for him to give it the pain to other people. I only able to feel 1 year of his pain from training with All Might. But the girl said, but Araka or Visible Girl, whoever, says she gone through all of his life. All 9 years of his life of torture. After Zuko finally put her down and he was approached by these two teachers, Aizawa and Vlad. Aizawa asked him what has happened. And Zuko said, "I think, like they said, they used my last vial. And sadly, it was my most heartbreaking vial of my life." As Aizawa asked him, "What has happened to your life for her to respond like that, react like that?" And Zuko said, "It's better if I show you than tell you. But let's not do it here." As they both leave and everybody else, Yida and Todoroki stay there to comfort any of the girls if they need to. And they're just still kind of tearing up and just quiet of learning Zuko's backstory for 3 years. His first 3 years as a baby for him. Oh, damn. Okay, I had to stop it here because I had to, work. Bye. Sorry.